on the line while we connect to the Veterans
going.
Crisis Line. Your call
Be
will be
gone.
recorded and possibly monitored for quality assurance. You may hear beeps during the transfer to a VCL responder. Thank you for calling the Veterans and Military Crisis Line. This is Jennifer. How can I help you?
Hey, Jennifer, my name is Mark Hensley. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm pretty upset, pretty jacked. Listen, I am calling you for medical legal reasons. Does that make sense?
Okay. For medical, legal reasons. Okay, tell me more. What do you mean?
So, even though you knew that this call was being recorded, I'm letting you know that I'm recording the call as well, and I'm video recording myself. Does that make sense?
Okay. It does.
Okay, so basically, I'm going to be using this. There's a possibility I'm going to be using this in my legal defense in a criminal trial against me. That my trial date is set for March 10th, 2025. Tentatively. Anyway, Washington State had charged me with a felony for threatening to kill Judge Scott Collier in 2021. That was on February 27th of 2021. They released me, and then I continued to get arrested, and then they finally kept me incarcerated sometime in mid to late March of 2021. I stayed incarcerated until August 15th of 2022. I did 18 months essentially waiting for trial for felony harassment against Judge Scott Collier. They ultimately found me guilty of felony conviction, and I appealed it. The Washington State Supreme Court overturned the conviction on appeal and told the prosecutor that they had the option to elect to retry the charges. They elected to do so, even though I was in communication with their office at the time. They failed to inform me in any reasonable manner that they were seeking further prosecution of me, and then had me arrested in Reno, Nevada, and extradited up to Washington. I did 42 days in incarceration at that point, and then Judge Lewis turned me loose, said I had to check in with supervised release, but then I was free to return to my home. While I was up here, I contacted Jennifer Hensley, the mother of my children. I haven't spoken to her or my 3 estranged children in 10 years. So when I got her on the phone, she was a bit shocked. Then she told me to call her back after 4 p.m. And I sent her a text saying at around approximately 2:43 in the afternoon, I sent her a text saying, hey, sorry about just calling you out of the blue. I understand how that can be a bit shocking. Ultimately, I'd like to speak to you before I leave town tomorrow at 4 p.m. I would like to know when is an appropriate time that I can meet you for a coffee. And I sent that via text, and I also informed her that I'd be calling her at 4:30. I then called her at 4:25, thinking that if she was, at all jittery that her ex-husband's calling her 10 years out of the blue, that she wouldn't have anything scheduled for 4:30, and she would have given herself at least 10 minutes to prepare for the call. So, if I called her at, 4:25, that would be showing, mercy. You don't have to think of this thing to death. I'm not your enemy. I'm just calling because I need to talk to you about legal matters, and I'd like to know about, my estranged children. And that was more or less the message that I left with her when she failed to answer at 4:25. And then I said I'd be calling her back because this was important to me. And then at 6 p.m. I called and left a rather long message saying, hey, this is disappointing. I was really hoping to speak to you while I was in town, but I have this trial coming up for threatening to kill Judge Collier on March 10th. I said, but there's going to be a lot of continuances and things. So this is going to drag out for a while, and I'm going to be commuting back and forth between Reno and Clark County and the Portland VA campus, a considerable amount in the foreseeable future. And it would probably be best that she just, think this through, and I'll get a hold of her next time I'm up here, which, will be in relatively short order. And I did threaten her a little bit. I said, I was planning on doing this anyway. I need to get you into family court before Alden turns 18. And that's the only reason I would be able to force you personally into court right now. And please don't make me do that. But I'm going to be up here filing so many different motions anyway that I would, I don't want to drag families' dirty laundry into court, but I'm going to be filing motions anyway. And if to speak to my children, the only way I can do that is to drag her into court, I'm most certainly willing to do that. I'm recording this video right now just to document the efforts that I've been putting into this and what I'm willing to do and what I don't want to do. And then I'm just going to have this played as evidence.
Okay. Well, do you mind if I ask you something, Mark, just so you can have it well documented? At this very moment, Mark, are you having any thoughts of suicide?
That's complicated, and I'd prefer not to talk about it. I have a chronic condition. Typically, when you go through these suicide, homicide, safety questions with me, I'm rather triggering to you, and then you're a mandatory reporter, and things get really complicated. I mean, we had a fiasco with the police here yesterday.
Well, how about this question? At this time, are you having any homicidal thoughts of hurting someone else?
Well, yes, ma'am. That's what I'm saying. I'm highly complicated. That's almost becoming chronic at this point as well.
Now, have you ever struggled any thought of suicide, Mark?
Oh, yes, ma'am. That's what I'm saying. All this is well documented and very complicated. So you're not going to be the first one to find out that I need to be reported to somebody, but I've already been reported. Right? If I answer any of your questions honestly, you're legally bound to report me.
Well, the thing is, though, Mark, I do want to clarify one thing for you. Because although you may have those thoughts, I would actually follow up with, is there a plan or intent which makes a significant difference? Okay,
yes,
Mark?
ma'am. Yes,
So
there is. There is. And that's what I don't want you to think that there isn't. But everybody's already been alerted. The judge has been alerted. The police have been alerted. Shit, dude, let's not make a big deal out of this.
Yes, sir. But, again, we want to make sure, not just for your documentation, but also from ours, that you're and everybody else is safe. Is that fair, Mark?
Yes, ma'am, that is fair. I would tell you the way that I put most everybody's mind to ease. If people are going to die, I would be the first one to.
Now, at this time, even with that statement, Mark, do you have any plans or intent of following through with a suicide?
Yes and yes.
And what would that plan be, Mark?
I would die by gunfire from the police. I have plans to do so, and push to it, I do have intent.
The magic word was if push, so that means that you have to be kind of pushed to that place, correct, Mark?
Yeah, and I'm damn near there, right? It's a gnat's ass. It's the straw that broke the camel's back, and then I'm ready to fucking fire.
Now, do you have firearms with you? Right
No,
now,
ma'am. No, not here.
Okay.
I was just extradited from my home in Sparks, Nevada, up to Washington State. I'm currently staying with a dear friend, and because I just got out of jail. And tomorrow at like 4:36, I'm taking an Alaska Airlines flight from Portland to Reno International Airport, which is close to my home.
Now, let me ask you, Mark, because again, I know that if pushed, you state that you will have a plan and intent.
Hey, ma'am,
At
ma'am,
this time, Mark.
do you mind if I cuss?
Oh no, not
Okay.
at all, Mark.
Well,
No.
then you're fucking A right. Do you understand what I meant by that?
Mark, let's say that again, Mark. I want to make sure I
Well,
didn't miss
well, you
something.
said if I was pushed to it, I do have plan and intent, and I said you're fucking a
Yes,
right.
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I heard you. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, Mark.
Okay. Hey, so I'm identifying as Mark in this phone call.
Well, you did provide me with your name when you
I,
first
I
came on.
yeah, that's my legal name. I often, get confused because I have to describe myself, differently. I would prefer you refer to me as AJ if you don't mind.
Oh, no problem. No
Thank you,
problem,
ma'am.
AJ.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for correcting me so I can make sure that I'm being respectful, okay?
Yes,
AJ?
ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, AJ. Now, let me ask you this. In your lifetime, AJ, have you ever attempted suicide?
Debatable.
Debatable. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So I thought about it, I planned it, and it's debatable if I attempted it.
Now, AJ, just for the safety of, our call as well as for your call, because I know you're recording, would you assist me with completing a safety plan? Some things that you
Certainly.
can do to keep yourself safe?
Oh, totally, totally, totally.
Now, what are some things, AJ, that you typically do when you feel overwhelmed or overstressed?
Well, you guys are part of my safety plan. Now, even though I'm recording at this time, this is not a infrequent occurrence. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have that I'm actively doing. I have the option to take a long hot shower and raise my core temperature. I like different crystals and stones and things like that. So I meditate with those in my hands, different energies, things like that. I often burn incense, but that's what I do at my apartment. I'm up here at Toby's. Toby, you don't have any incense, do you? Nice. Can we burn some?
It's right on that table against the window.
Okay, and I'd like to open this wine too.
Okay.
All right, we'll do the Pinot Grigio.
It's not in the fridge.
No, it's not in the fridge. It doesn't matter. Cool. So anyway, we're gonna drink a glass of wine. I have a joint that I'm going to smoke. Gonna put on some good music, so like some Brett Dennen or Amos Lee, something like that. Burn some incense.
Good music.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Good
ma'am.
choice, AJ.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, go ahead and give me an artist that you think I should listen to.
Okay, tell me what genre, because I listen to everything from hard rock to jazz. So what genre are we looking for?
Okay, so let me give you your audience, okay? I'm open-minded. I have the stuff that I like to listen to, so I'm going to give you a couple artists at the end of this as well. And this is being recorded, and I'm going to put this on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and I'll go ahead and give you that channel at the end of this, so you know where to look at this to see how this, or you can see who you spoke to, because I'm going to play this in a court of law, right? I don't think that they're going to subpoena you, but there's a chance that they might, right? Did I lose you?
AJ?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, I'm still here.
Okay, excellent. Anyway, I'm a 50-year-old rebel at this point, and I'm fighting the government. So I have a lot of, patriotic, but not white supremacist. I identify as a white supremacist because, I have Christian ideologies, and they think anybody that thinks like that is racist. So I started out with, okay, I guess I'm racist. Let me think this through. And yeah, a lot of my thought processes, I guess, were racist, but not to the degree that I would ever identify as a racist. But, they keep on. And then I was like, fine, I'm a racist. And then, I'm just willing to up the ante. Now I just tell them I identify as a white supremacist. But that's not the case. That's not the case. I have a lot of really bad friends that are African American. I mean, drunks and fucking drug addicts. But, everybody says that they have black friends, right? I'm washing my fucking homeless white guilt because I was unsheltered homeless on and off for the majority of the time from April 16th, 2019, when Judge Collier, the man that I threatened to kill, forced me out of my home that I owned for 14 years because he felt that I contended with, at the very least, a severe mental illness or Tourette syndrome, and he felt it was best to handle that disability unsheltered homeless in the streets of Vancouver, Washington. Anyway, that's not the reason I threatened to kill him, but the jury might think that that's at least motive. Now, keep in mind that I'm posting this evident confession on YouTube, so this could be used against me as well as for me. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because it's undeniable and not debatable that I did make a threat against Judge Ruley. Now, I believe the exact term that I used was to assassinate not Judge Ruley. That's a separate issue, ma'am. Judge Collier. Now, what did I mean by assassination? That's up for debate. I would tell you that I'm a very, intelligent man. Can you tell that I have, above average capabilities, ma'am?
I can.
Okay. So I use oftentimes idioms. Now, what does assassinate mean? Now, I don't know. Once again, I'm not college educated. Have I told you that I'm a card-carrying retard, ma'am?
No, sir, you have not.
Yes, ma'am, I am. I'm sorry I didn't identify myself. I'll show you my card later when I meet you in person. Anyway, I lost myself. Please allow me a moment to collect my thoughts. Will you remind me what I was saying before I so humbly cracked myself up by calling myself a retard?
Yes, sir. You were saying that you did admit to saying that you would assassinate Judge. However,
okay, so
the term assassination.
Now, immediately thereafter, I asked them to arrest me for making such a outlandish statement, right? But did I mean that I was going to physically kill him, and was that a credible threat because I immediately asked for my arrest and incarceration? Or did I mean in a coy way that I was going to assassinate his character? That's, for the jury to decide. But that is also a plausible, meaning or definition of the word if you go with, the current colloquialisms of cancel culture, different things like that. You're gonna, character assassins are more deadly in the political field than, physical, assault assassins, if that makes sense. And later, I don't know if this is admitting to a crime or not. When I was living down in Reno, I called and said that I was going to start doxing him, right? Now, because of the conviction, I think I wasn't allowed to further harass him. And do you know what doxing is?
Will you elaborate?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you kindly for asking for clarification. So doxing is the online practice of releasing personal information. You threat to dox somebody, and if they don't do what you want, then you put their personal phone number up there, or you put their business up there, or you put their boss up there, or their place of employment up there. And you try to get other people to then harass them because you're now making their personal information public, right? So if my first threat was to assassinate his character, it's fair to say that my follow-up threat was to reveal his personal information and how dirty he really is and how bad he really screwed me, right? Now, anyway, they convicted me. They convicted me anyway, and I appealed it, and I won the appeal, and they brought me up here, and they're going to retry me. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to subpoena a lot of people into this, a lot of high-ranking Clark County police officers, sheriffs, police chiefs, a lot of people that were involved in this, because the corruption around here absolutely destroyed me. And I can say that each and every one of my arrests dealt with mental illness or my diagnosed disability of Tourette syndrome. And they were all notified that I had this condition well prior to all the shenanigans that took place over the last 10 years. So it's my intention to get further mental health evaluations and diagnoses, and and I'm going to have the state pay for it because I'm going to ask them to grant me funds, for an investigation to include a private investigator and a full forensic diagnostic evaluation paid for by the state. I'm going to justify my defense funds because the state has spent exorbitant amounts of money to prosecute me. I mean, hell, they just flew 3 deputies down to pick me up in Reno. They rented a $100,000 SUV, picked me up, put me in, packed me in their van of opulence, right? I was brought to the Reno airport like arriving royalty. They didn't want me to have to wait for a layover. Or anyway, I don't know what it was. We flew from Reno to Seattle to Portland so we could do it just as fast as possible. Then when we landed, they brought me to Wendy's and bought me a $16 Baconator large meal. Then they brought me and they tucked me into probably the country's worst jail. But the cops were so nice. I mean, they have nothing to do with the conditions of the jail. But there I languished for another 2 weeks, and then Judge Lewis released me against, the prosecution's staunch stance that I remain in jail because I continue to be a threat to the community. And they said they wanted a $20,000 bond, and Judge Lewis, released me on my own good word. And I fully intend to follow all of his court orders and rulings. And I look forward to the battle that's getting ready to come.
Well, AJ, let me ask you this, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Is there a date? Do you have a date for your appearance here, your trial? Or is that something that is still pending?
So the trial date is set for March 10th, and that was told to me at arraignment. I haven't spoken to my attorney other than to see him later that afternoon to sign a waiver of extradition in case I fail to appear, for my court hearings, my mandated court hearings. I can tell you right now, because this is a recorded thing, that I have no intentions of ever missing any mandated court appearances, nor do I have any history of missing any mandated court appearances. So I was going to buy a round-trip ticket, but I didn't have the money, so I wound up just buying a one-way ticket home from here. But I do intend to come back, and I'm hoping to have my automobile fixed in order to do so.
Now, let me ask you something, AJ. You mentioned when you were speaking to your friend, I think you said Toby, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, ma'am.
You asked for, you guys are going to sip on your wine and smoke your joint.
Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
me about the use of this alcohol. I mean, how often are you drinking alcohol?
I really don't. It's certainly not my preferred poison. Sometimes I just need a poison, right? But oftentimes I have access to cannabis, so because of that, I avoid alcohol. Toby and I met 7 years ago, and we spent a couple hours talking about wine because, we both have a cultured background, but neither one of us drink. And then we were talking about pairing wines with different meals and things like that. And we were reminiscing because, I moved to Reno and, she's letting me stay here because I just got out of jail. And we were talking about how we never drank the wine or made the meal. So we went to Costco and we bought a box wine, Pinot Grigio, just to have wine because with box wine it'll last for a couple months, right? But then we bought a bottle of Cabernet, a red wine, and that's a bottle. So once you open that, you pretty much have to drink it. And then we bought a bunch of really nice lamb chops. So we were gonna do the red wine.
Compare those wines with your lamb chops.
Yeah, that was the goal. But I don't want to cook, and we decided that we weren't going to do that. So we were putting the lamb in the freezer, and then I looked at the wine. I thought, well, screw it. We still never drank the wine, so we'll drink a glass of wine together. we can open the Pinot Grigio because we can both have, a glass of wine, and then it'll still last, 3 months. We don't have to drink the whole bottle like we would have, if we had the lamb.
Now, let me ask you this, AJ. I know that, like you mentioned, that's not typically your poison. Tell me about cannabis. How often are you smoking?
I like to do it every day. It's not necessary, but it alters my thought process. It puts me in a better place. It alleviates some stresses. At times, it really takes away the symptoms of my Tourette's if I'm dealing with that. At other times, it seems to exacerbate it. I find cannabis is interesting because pretty much it does for you what you need, whether you like it or not. If it makes you paranoid, you need to be paranoid, right? If it makes you, laugh, you need it to laugh, right? There's a lot of medicinal, reasons, for cannabis. It's rather complex. You know that we have, an endocannabinoid system with CB1 and CB2 receptors that they just recently discovered. I think out of Israel they discovered that. This plant emulates, a nervous system in the human body. It's really wild.
Well, AJ, let me ask you, based on what you've just shared, would it be fair to assess that maybe you use a few days a week, or would you say it's more as far as daily use?
I would tend to be more of the daily user. If you need to categorize me, let's say McDonald's would like to have me as their customer. I'm not there
And
every day.
McDonald's will.
I'm not there every day, but I'm there enough that they appreciate my business. I'm talking about the dispensaries and things like that.
Well, let me ask you, AJ. Now, after you guys have your lamb chop, you enjoy your wine, maybe smoke a little cannabis. Are there any plans for you to drive tonight? I want to make sure you're safe.
Yeah, no, ma'am. I'm not going anywhere. We already went to Costco, got the stuff that we wanted, and we're in for the night. We might plan to fight later, but as of now, we're chill.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Now, AJ, now let me ask you. I'm not sure if you just got there in Washington. I don't know if you have any providers in your area. Would you like anyone from the VA to reach out to provide you with resources?
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out. I want to talk to the VA in Portland and the one in Reno and see which one is best for me to start taking care and getting care from, because the one in Reno, I'm in the process to get care, but they keep on canceling my appointments and they're really not providing it. So I'm looking to establish care somewhere, and I don't know which facility would be more appropriate. I think neither one would
And I'm,
want
I'm
me.
th- well, I'm thinking at this point, because you say you're hopping on the plane pretty soon and leaving, so I know it's not a permanent place where you are now. You're just with your friend at this moment. Do you
Yeah,
know where your
but
permanent location might be, AJ?
no, I don't, and I need to talk to the courts about that, and I need to talk to the states as to who's going to pay for all this, because it's certainly not me. I don't have any money. But the what I was telling you earlier is the state has spent millions of dollars to prosecute me. They got plenty of money that they can check into my allegations that this was all abuse of authority, and that I'm actually the one that has been aggrieved in this entire process. So it's going to be interesting how I'm going to word the motion, uh, or how much of my attorney is going to do this for me. But I'm going to ask for funds to be allocated to a private investigator, and as I said, to a team of mental health professionals, because that's what this is going to take. It's going to take a literal team of mental health professionals to figure out what my agreed upon actual diagnoses are. Does that make sense?
It does. It
Okay.
does make sense. Are you seeing anyone currently, AJ? Any providers currently?
Well, so I had 5 involuntary psychiatric admits at the Reno VA from October 2nd until the first week of November. And after the first one, it triggered a team response, and they asked me what I felt I needed. And I said I needed therapy. I needed to speak to a pill pusher or a psychiatrist to see what medications might be warranted. and I needed the entirety of my mental health diagnoses gathered from the multitudes of evaluations that I've had in Washington State, and then place that in consideration against what they believe my current diagnoses are, and get a full psychological profile and workup. And they scheduled my psychiatrist appointment, the pill pusher, for January 21st, and this was like October 6th that they did that. And I thought, Jesus, how far out is that? I still haven't got any therapy yet. And this demented woman that did my psychological evaluation, they didn't get any of my Washington reports. They didn't consult any of my prior clinicians. They didn't consult any of my references. And she had me do a personality test, a multiple choice personality test. She spoke to me for an hour and a half and came back. She called me while I was in jail. They pulled me out of my jail cell and said my doctor wanted to talk to me. And she's like, "Hey, Mark, I just wanted to call and let you know that your only diagnosis is a antisocial personality disorder." And I thought, wow, this is real appropriate. You're literally phoning this in to me, and I'm in jail. I said, "What does that even mean?" And she's like, "Oh, it just means that you have a problem with authority." And I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." I said, "Did you use Occam's razor for that low-hanging fruit? What the fuck are you even talking about? And why are you calling me in jail?" And she's like, "Well, I was going to do your evaluation last year, but you're in jail, so I couldn't. So I didn't tell you anything for a year." And I was like, "Well, where the fuck do you think I'm at now? And you have the ability to..." Anyway, the whole thing pissed me off. She negated probably 15 other diagnosed conditions that the state of Washington gave me, right? Just to tell me that because I fight back when I'm unjustly persecuted, that it's my fucking fault, and it's so my fault that it's a diagnosable condition. Anyway, so diagnosed conditions, all those are is insurance codes to say what type of treatment you get, what type of services you get. And because she negated all my other diagnoses, that slams a lot of my options, a lot of doors closed, to where because I don't have those insurance codes anymore, these treatments are denied me. So that pissed me off. And furthermore, my conditions at this point, and it's, not debatable, my conditions at this point render me, disabled to where I could not functionally hold down a job. Therefore, I receive SSDI. But the government's not in the business of paying people just because they don't want to listen to authority. Otherwise, the entire half this country would be rich and the other half would be paupers, right? But I digress.
No, you're fine. I could tell that it was a very frustrating situation for you because I can hear the emotions in your voice, AJ.
Yeah. So as I said, because I went out on disability, my employer at the time was Legacy Medical Systems. That was a huge medical conglomerate that had a lot of hospitals in the Portland metro area, which extended up into Clark County, Washington, where I lived and worked. And I went out on disability February 15th of 2015 due to my Tourette's symptoms of my Tourette's syndrome. I informed my employer that I had Tourette's syndrome. I informed the courts that I had Tourette's syndrome. Everybody knew that I was disabled. I told everybody that I was so disabled that I was receiving disability insurance payments from a major medical conglomerate because they were a self-insured provider, right? They had me seeing their doctor, filling out their reports, telling them that, hey, this guy's conditions are severe enough that he's not going to be able to return to work this month. And every single month I had to have, one of their doctors say that I was disabled. And that carried on up until the first year. And then after the first year, they had written in their policy that they had the right to have me evaluated by third-party clinicians. So they had me evaluated by a forensic psychologist, Dr. Friedman, out of Portland, Oregon. And he wrote out his report, and then a forensic neurologist, because Tourette syndrome has a neurological component, clearly. And that was Dr. Dickerman out of Portland, Oregon. And then both doctors came back saying that there was definitely something going on. They weren't exactly positive about what it was, but it was very clearly disabling. So Legacy continued to pay me my disability insurance, but written in the contract was after the first year, they no longer had to pay my medical insurance. So not only was I not seeing their doctors anymore, they wouldn't pay me to see and pay for me to be evaluated by any doctor. So I had to pay out of pocket to see Dr. Thomas. He is a board certified psychologist. So PhD is able to sign these reports. Prior to that, it was Dr. Moynihan, who was an MD. He was my family practitioner. But anyway,
Okay, the primary provider.
yeah. So Dr. Thomas signed those inability to work forms for the next year, and Legacy continued to pay, but 2 years was the extent of the long-term disability contract. So then, payments stopped, and ultimately, I was still unable to return to work, and I was tied up in all sorts of legal shenanigans, and my home was foreclosed upon, and it just is what it is. But prior to the conclusion of the foreclosure process, I was thrown out of my home by court order because one of my neighbors testified that due to my Tourette syndrome, I wasn't welcome in that neighborhood. And Judge Collier on April 16th, 2019, ruled that I should not be within 500 feet of Eddie Bermudez. And Eddie lived about 100 feet away from me. So if I can't be within 500 feet of Eddie, I'm not allowed to be at my home anymore. So they forced me unsheltered homeless out into the streets of Vancouver with Tourette syndrome to fend for myself. And they did all that because my disability makes people uncomfortable.
Now, I know that you don't have a scheduled appointment with your psychiatrist until later this month, but has anyone prescribed you any medications that you're taking at this time?
Yeah, so I told you I had a lot of inpatient stays on the psych ward. So the chief of staff of inpatient psychiatry took over my mental health medications. That became a big hoopla because they wanted to throw me on the psych ward and strip search me because I wanted a medication refill. And anyway, so when the chief guy, Dr. It's either Lionheart or Goodheart or something like that, he's like, well, yeah, this guy shouldn't have put you on lorazepam if he wasn't going to continue to see you if you needed a refill. Because they only gave me 15 lorazepam pills. I had 4 left, but I knew that I was going to need some prior to January 6th. And I made an appointment to see my doctor, and my doctor kept on canceling my appointments or calling in sick on the day of my appointment. He was intentionally avoiding me, right? I have a behavioral flag at the VA. Do you know what that is?
I do know what that is, yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just going to explain it to you for the sake of this video, okay?
Okay.
Anytime that I am going to go on the VA campus, and I believe, but I haven't done this all the time, anytime that I'm going to access like medical care off campus, I'm still supposed to notify the VA police that I'm going to be at that location. I'm only supposed to arrive to the VA campus 15 minutes prior to my scheduled appointment. I'm supposed to stop by the police station and get issued a security risk badge, my scarlet letter, if you will. And then I have 2 armed police officers follow me everywhere I go while I'm on the VA campus. They wait outside the door, uh, at my doctor's appointments, typically outside of earshot, not all the time, but typically. And honestly, I don't mind if they come in and sit with the whole damn thing. They know I have Tourette's. They know I'm not a threat, but they know I am a threat. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. But here's the deal. I'm not a threat to their life, or at least I don't want to be, right? But I'm a threat to their jobs. The way that they treated me and the things that they did to me, you're damn right I'm a threat. They're going to put me on the stand and say that I'm the criminal because I just won't simply shut up about the abuse that they're casting on me. Ma'am, may I cuss?
Yes, sir, you can.
Fuck them. Fuck them. Sorry about that, ma'am.
No, it's nothing personal. It sounds like you just need to express yourself, AJ. So
Yes,
hey,
ma'am.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Now I know that you were telling me about the medications. Are you currently out of medications at this time, AJ, or do you still have some?
No, and that was problematic, right? Because I got out of jail Thursday at 5 p.m. and I didn't sleep until I have any sleep, right? Until today's Saturday. So this morning, Saturday at 6 a.m. And then I slept from 6 to 9. So sleep deprivation makes things more interesting at the very least. And I told a 988 operator that if I failed to fall asleep, by the time like 10 a.m., then I was going to go to the Vancouver VA emergency room and see if I could get somebody to give me 1 milligram of Ativan. I could stay and sleep there, or they could give it to me and I could come over here and sleep on the couch. But I have to be able to shut it off. Otherwise, if I go several days without sleep, then it gets way too hairy.
Okay. Well, I know that you have plans for this evening, drinking wine, smoking marijuana, and possibly just enjoying your friend Toby. Do you have any other plans, AJ?
She put out a candy dish. I'm gonna murder some chocolate.
Oh, you're a chocolate lover, okay? Yeah, I'm more. I like white chocolate, just not the dark chocolate.
I hear you. I hear you. May I be inappropriate right now and then end this with a hard question?
Yes, go for it, AJ.
I can tell that you are a Southern black woman, and I appreciate the hell out of you. I caught a white unicorn yesterday, and then it got away. And may I explain that to you?
Sure.
There is an underrepresented and underappreciated population of people in your establishment, and they're a scary group of people, and I recognize that, but we all have our disabilities, and one of these people answered the phone yesterday, and they didn't want to identify themselves, and then finally he admitted that he was a white man. And I said, thank God. I said, I've just been wanting to talk to one of you guys. And he's like, why? I said, because I'm a white guy. And, there's certain problems that goes along with being a white guy. And, I want to relate to somebody that's like me. And
how did that interaction go between you and him? How was it?
I got hung up on. It was a technical error, and 3 minutes into the call, he hung up. And what I can say is, thank God I record some of these things. I recorded it. I can document the sighting, but out of the countless, and you're gonna have to forgive me for saying this because I tend to overutilize effective resources. I have thousands of calls to the crisis line, right? And out of those thousands of calls to the crisis line, I've had maybe like 4 or 5 white dudes. It's crazy. And I got to tell you, I had a prejudice earlier on in life against black women. And,
Really? Why was that, AJ?
Because, my stereotype and what I had been exposed to with black women is they just didn't take any shit, right? So, it was all sass, and I'm not going to put up with you and Joe shit. And I always said, my brother needs to marry a black woman. He needs somebody to straighten him the fuck out. But you know, you guys, black women in particular, are extremely overrepresented in your company. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is now I'm going to be stereotypical, okay? What I'm saying here
Okay.
is historically, black women have filled the caregiver roles, forever. So, that's sort of in your DNA. And you guys are overrepresented in the underpaid caregiving fields, in-home care providers and things like that. You guys are extremely compassionate, and in dealing with, out of the thousands of calls I've had to the crisis line, I've really gained an understanding and an affinity for black women, and in particular Southern black women.
Well, I do appreciate that. That was not offensive whatsoever, AJ. I appreciate you for saying that.
Yes, ma'am. You guys are still scary as hell when you're mad, though.
Well, I'm glad you made me laugh before we disconnected, AJ.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I do hope that you enjoy the rest of your night, and I do wish you well on your journey to just kind of proclaim your innocence. So good luck with everything, AJ.
Thank
If you
you.
don't mind me saying that.
Thank you kindly, ma'am. You have a wonderful day.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye bye.